Hi, this is Christy Lundby Hill with the Lundby Hill team of Edina Realty. I wanted to talk today about some of the changes in real estate and just how it's affecting people buying and selling houses and just the process alone, because it is a complicated subject. For instance, this last week we listed a house and had a web lead, is what they call it, when somebody goes on our website and then calls us from one of our listings that they saw online and wanted to see it. And with the new changes in real estate, I have to explain that to a buyer. And one of the new changes that came about is that, and this is nationwide, not just in Minnesota, a realtor cannot show a house without some kind of written agreement. And it's just come about from some changes. I said to that buyer when they called, I said, I'm happy to show you the house, but do you have a realtor you've been working with or plan to work with? And she said, I know some realtors, but I don't really have one I'm working with. And so I just went forward to explain that I'm happy to show it to you. But if I do show it to you, we have to have a written agreement now with these new changes, and I can do it just specific for this property and write in that it's just for this property, but you'd have to sign that if you were going to buy this house, you'd have to go through me to buy it. You can't get another realtor involved later. So if you do want a different realtor, you need to talk to them and have them show you the house, because they'll have you sign something, because that's the new regulation, which a lot of people don't understand that because this is new. She said, you know what, I'm fine with you showing us the house. And I said, okay. And so we scheduled it for the next day. A couple hours later, she texted me and just said, you know what, from talking to you, I did reach out to this other person that I'm good friends with, this realtor, and would like them to show it to me. And I said, that's fine. So I canceled my showing and said, just have them schedule the new showing then. So it worked out fine, but I do think that a lot of other realtors out there, if you call in on a listing, might not be being as upfront about this or explaining it, and buyers aren't used to that because they used to just call on a whim on a house, go see it, and not think twice about it because we didn't have to have them sign anything. So the new rules came about because sellers, and it's confusing, a lot of people don't understand all this, but when someone sells a house, whatever that seller pays for commission, the seller, part of that goes to the company that lists the house, and part of that commission goes to whoever sells it with the buyer. And so buyers' agents always just knew they'd get paid showing a house. And so it wasn't a big deal, so they wouldn't always get the paperwork up front. Now it's available for sellers to not have to pay a buyer's agent. I will say that in the stats since this happened, right now it's at about 97% of sellers are still paying buyer's agents. There's a few who have opted to not, and then those houses sit there, and then later on, because nobody's showing them, they then change it over and do end up paying a buyer's agent to sell the house. So it's not really changing real estate in that perspective, other than buyers just not understanding that if they call in on a house, if they want to be represented, they need to call their agent to show it to them. So that's the big change. And another story that happened just this last weekend was I got a call from, actually it was a past client of ours, and it was his daughter and son-in-law who were looking at a house and had gone through originally an open house, which you don't have to have something signed for if you do an open house. And they really liked this house and started negotiating with the agent verbally, supposedly. And so my question to him was, did they schedule a showing with this agent to go see the house outside of it? And he thought they didn't. But then I said, why don't you have her give me a call? So then she called me and talked to me, and she just was a little nervous about this because she wasn't really comfortable with this listing agent and wasn't happy fully with them because felt like they were playing a little bit of games on some things. And so I just said, we got to find out, first off, did you sign anything? And she said, technically, no, not yet, but they've sent me stuff to sign. And so I said, I don't want to get in the way of you getting this house if you've already gotten to this point with this agent, but I want to make sure that you understand some things. So just explain some things to them. She actually sent me the paperwork to just peek over before she did sign it. And I explained to her that, the papers she was going to sign with this agent would have tied her in to this agent, even if she didn't get this house, because it didn't have any language in the buyer representation papers that said that it was only for that house. So if they didn't buy that house, they would have been stuck with this agent. So that's the big scare that I'm seeing, is that some agents might take advantage of this rule to tie people into working with them. And so you really just have to be cognizant. And it is hard when you have somebody call in on a property and want to see it, and you want to show it to them because you're working for your seller, but at the same point, you don't want to take advantage of that situation. I tried to explain it, and the way our team is working, and each agent is different, is if we don't know them and they're uncomfortable with signing something, but we have to have something, we will do it just for that property. In the beginning, if they decide later that that property doesn't work and they want to continue working with us, then we can sign something different. But that's just, unfortunately, it's the new way of real estate. I think it's good in the respect that it will make buyers aware of how things are paid, and it's a little more transparent, but it's also confusing to them. And when I've gone to show a few houses and I'm like, okay, we have to sign something before we do it, I can write it's just for this property. And I try to explain it to them. It's really confusing because they don't really understand it. And my best advice for people wanting to possibly buy a house is to maybe go interview a couple of real estate agents before you start looking. And sit down with them, understand the process, figure it out, really have a good feel, because you don't want to get stuck with somebody you're not comfortable with. And you want to make sure you understand what you're signing, and you want to, before you sign it, you're hiring that agent technically. Even though the seller is still, in most cases, still paying for that, you are going to be working with that agent. And this is the largest financial investment most people make in their lifetime. So it's really important to understand the process and not just do this on a whim. I think that's the biggest thing I'd like to get across, is just please call some realtors, ask questions, maybe sit down with them, whatever, if you want to do it on the phone or in person. But I think it's really a smart thing for buyers to sit down and understand this process before they just get emotionally involved in seeing a house that they like. That's my biggest advice for people. Also, it's really difficult understanding how to buy and sell at the same time. A lot of people that own a house and need a bigger one don't understand, how do I do this? And they just jump into things and maybe call some lender online. Another thing I would say is please call a trusted realtor and ask for advice on who would be a good loan person to talk to, because we deal with this every day. You don't. And getting somebody online, you could be getting somebody that's out of California, that there's different rules and regulations. They've got a lot of, I've had online companies where buyers were with them and it's been a nightmare where things did not close on time. And it's stressful enough moving, especially if you're doing a double move, selling and buying. You don't want to have the headaches when it comes to something like this. So please ask for who a realtor would recommend as a loan person. So that's another piece of advice I would have. And then also, I think I started touching on it, buying and selling at the same time. If you have to sell a house and buy, how do you do that? Do you go fall in love with the house and just on a whim go through an open house, and then you decide you want to do this and you want this house and how do I do it? And then you get into a corner because you're emotionally attached to a new house? Or do you make a logical sit down with a realtor, figure out, okay, do I sell first? Do I buy first? There's different ways to do it. There's different programs out there. There's ways, contingent offers. I'm going to be honest, a lot of people think, oh, I can just write an offer contingent on selling mine. Well, you get the leftovers when you're doing that, because the new houses that come on the market that are the best ones that sell fast are not going to take a contingent offer. So you've got to be in a position to be able to buy that non-contingent, or have sold your house previously and are willing to move twice. You are going to miss the good ones if you are going to be contingent. You are going to be having to look at the houses that have been on the market a little while, that nobody's written an offer on yet. because they're the ones who are more anxious to take or willing to take a contingent offer. So there's just so many facets to this, and it's really complicated. And I just say you can give us a call anytime. I've been doing this for 30 years this year. My name, again, is Christy Lundby Hill with Edina Realty. My cell phone is 651-216-4676. Or you can email me at christyhill@edinarealty.com, and that is spelled Christy, Hill, Hill, at Edina Realty. And people spell realty wrong all the time. It's Realty. There's no I in there. It's not reality. It's realty. That, or I'm Christy Lundby. I'm one in the same. Hopefully that helps. A few tidbits for buyers, and just call. We're happy to chat with you, educate you, make sure you're doing the right things.